Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us in this APPI Learn by Doing webinar. We're doing these about twice a month now, and today we're going to have the focus be on analysis judging with an approach which I basically stole, if you will, with his blessings from Joe McMoneagle. I've labeled it about 50%. That's not his label, that's mine. We'll be talking about that right off the bat here after we basically give a summary of ARV, because we usually have some brand new people here, and it's always good to just summarize that and put that in context. And then we'll be discussing the about 50% approach, the description, and we'll be doing specific examples. And then we'll do our standard 1 month plus prediction with the RV session, the judging. I want to discuss the sessions that you have after we judge it. So hopefully today you'll be using this new approach in your judging to get a good feeling for it. And then we'll discuss all that. And of course the results don't come back for a month or so. So, okay, with that, let's move into what is ARV all about. Now, in linear time, we do our remote viewing session first, then we have judging, and then we have our feedback session. The task in the remote viewing session is to describe and sketch what we're going to see at the feedback session, period. This is why I always say over and over, precognition begins with the feedback session, because that's the truth, and your task is to describe and sketch the feedback target you're going to see. We are doing purposeful precognition, okay? We have made up our minds that we want to do an association with basically a yes-no question, and we focus on binary. ARV can be done with more than two, but we're focused on two now. And a binary question, which is a yes-no question, we're going to be able to make a prediction during the judging. We're going to talk more about that. But the fact that we're doing this on purpose is what makes the ARV and the remote viewing part of it a lot different than precognition, where it happens spontaneously, which many of us have experienced. But now we have a specific question in mind, and our task is to describe and sketch the feedback target. Now, since it's a yes-no question, okay, the judging is when that decision will be made about whether the answer will indeed be a yes or no. And there will be two possible photo site targets. Now I want to explain to you what a photo site is. So your target in what we'll be doing today, and many of the groups do, but not all. There are people who've done ARV out there where the targets are different sorts of things. Could be real objects. You could go out to a specific place and the target would be that particular place. We do what are called photo sites. And here's the definition of a photo site. A photo site refers to the particular location at the time the photo was taken. Now, consciousness moves to that physical site at the time the photo was taken, and its job is to describe and or sketch what can be readily verified or inferred from the photo. So first impressions are really very important. And these can include visuals, color, shapes, dimensions, sounds, smells, tastes, tactile sensations, emotions. Essentially, your whole nervous system is available for reporting about the photo site. So that's our target. Your consciousness moves to where the photo was taken, but the task associated with the word photo site is to describe and sketch what can be readily verified or inferred. And that's so the judge is able to make a determination between two possible photo sites. Only one will end off being the target that you see. And of course, that's the remote viewer's job, to describe and sketch what he sees. That's really ARV. It turns out, and I just always have to remind people because experience shows that you're going to sometimes get other kinds of information, but that's not your target. The target is the feedback photo site, nothing else. If you describe something else, if you get what's noise, and sometimes those are hard to distinguish, you're not on target. Now, as I've indicated, the association is, in our case, one of two possible photo site feedback targets. One is associated with a yes answer to the question. The other is associated with a no. Okay. What's your target? It's the feedback photo site you'll see here. And you will know that for sure. We always give feedback associated with what actually happens. So, in principle and in reality, once you can accept this reality of precognition, that somehow information is shared, is entangled between the remote viewing and the feedback session, ARV actually is very easy to understand. Now, if there are any questions or anything like that, ask now, because that's really all I intend to say about defining ARV for newbies and as a review. Okay. So let's now get into this analysis and judging. Remember, this is the place where you actually are making a prediction which will often lead to action of one sort. In our case, wagering. In regular remote viewing, not even ARV, there's always analysis, judging of a transcript, and you would take action based on that. They might move a satellite around to observe some information. During the Cold War, apparently there were even some military strikes that were driven by remote viewing transcripts, and all that is done during the analysis and judging phase. So this is a very important aspect of ARV, as well as remote viewing. And okay, now the basic idea comes from Joe, as I've indicated, and the new, I guess, concept is to quantitatively make the weighting factor in terms of your decision about photosite A or photosite B being the target. you're giving 50% weight to what I'm calling first impression gestalts. Because that's exactly what the meaning of the judging is. Gestalt is sort of the idea of a collection of things come together within one bigger idea. This is a little bit broader than that, and that's why I've indicated the word first impression gestalts, because there really can be more than one gestalt within our targets, within our photo sites. An example of a gestalt would be something as simple as a bicycle, right? Because it's composed of wheels and pedals and spokes, and yet you put all that together and you get this thing that you can drive that we'd call a bicycle. But obviously in photo sites, you might have a bicycle in the middle of a city, a street, whatever. So there could be multiple gestalts around. The key thing about this in our context, and these are words that Joe used, I talked to him just yesterday, because I really wanted to make sure that I was really putting out his ideas here, basically. And he says, yeah, these are things that, like, when you take your first look, it smacks you in the face. Those are his words. They get you right in the ballpark of more details, more information, which is going to come later. So that's what he means. First impression gestalts. Hey, I love acronyms, so that's a FIG. So these are FIGs. Okay, so that's really what's new here, is to make these FIGs so important. And he believes, and obviously you want to listen very closely to him. All you have to do is look at his sessions and the kinds of work that he's done, and you want to listen closely to him. And what he basically says is, in all of his experience, that stuff that comes out first is gold. And when it's correct, you should give that a high weight. So that's really the concept here, and about 50%. Now, we in previous webinars have been talking about this A-B approach, where we mark on transcripts, and we'll be doing it with an example here as well, but we've done it before, where you mark if the match is good with the A photo site, which is one of the choices, or the B photo site, another choice, on your actual transcript. And see, that's what the T stands for. You'll be putting the A's and the B's and maybe little A's if it sort of matches but not real strong. And we'll be now counting those up. This whole approach is much more quantitative, which I think for many people will really be good, because using the TARG scale, and we will be connecting this with the TARG scale, it was always vague. There were words involved, and you got this impression about what you're supposed to do. But it's been my observation that too many people were off by more than one. They would tend, frankly, the biggest problem I see is people giving themselves 3.5s, 4s, sometimes even higher confidence rankings above the wagering level, when they really should be passes. They might have a few things in there, and gee, after you've done a whole session, you don't want to pass. I frankly see that as the biggest issue with analysis judging. This still has judgment involved, as we'll see shortly, but it's much more quantitative, and I think we'll all tend to get to the same numbers using this approach. Okay, what I want to do now is give you an example. And so just like we have two possible photo site targets when we do our normal ARV, I am now going to give you two now. And what I want you to do is really get into paying attention. Be aware of your own personal consciousness, which is, of course, what you do during a remote viewing session. You're looking inward, you're looking at your own consciousness, and this is sort of going to hopefully give you the feeling of these first impressions. So it's like almost we're going to train you a little bit here to really notice. So get very conscious about your very first impressions. Okay, I did that fast on purpose. Did anybody get first impressions? Go ahead, put them in the chat box. Put your first impressions in the chat box. Yep, yep. See, isn't this beautiful? This is just the sort of stuff that comes up in remote viewing sessions. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to show it again. But again, be conscious of your first impressions. And this time, why don't you first look at the one on the left and then look at the one on the right. So the figs on these are indeed very, very different. Yep. Perfect. That's the one on the left. Go ahead and do the same thing for the one on the right, John and everybody else. Now the other thing which you can't do on the chat box, but you always do, most of you in your sessions, because most of you have words and sketches which come up from your consciousness, is if you look at like a first impression sketch that you would make, maybe a little bit past the ideogram, but something like a quick sketch. You can, in fact, you almost might even want to do that on a piece of paper right now. The quick sketch, you could see that quick sketches would also be quite different between these two. Okay, so you're getting the idea, hopefully, of a first impression gestalts. There are multiple gestalts in each of them. They're quite different. And this happens to, I think, be a good example of why someone like Joe would say, 50% of the weighting ought to be right here in the gestalts, because that's an indication of whether or not you in fact are on target, a pretty good indication, So, okay. Now, so we've discussed your early impressions. Hopefully you kind of got the idea now of what these figs are, first impression gestalts. And okay, so that's indeed what you saw. I did talk to Joe about the displacement issue because we're looking at 2. He, you know, doesn't know where the information basically about the target that a viewer that uses an independent judge, how could he possibly see it? He says, I don't know. I don't care. I basically want to treat it simply as a miss, maybe learn a little something from it and move on. He doesn't think we'll ever, quote, figure out why. He doesn't like the question why, which is sort of interesting, but I'm just sharing that attitude with you because somebody, the judge, somebody always does see both of those pictures. And the remote viewer's job is to just go to the correct one. And the gestalts are at least part of a way of doing that. Okay, now, as I've indicated, this is very analytical, which is, I believe, really a big advantage of it. But as you see, so the key thing here that you do is your FIG, the first impression gestalt, gets ranked from 0 to 1. So you make some judgments there, and then you rank it from 0 to 1. 0, 1/2, and 1 has sort of been what I've been using, but there's no reason you can't do something in between if that feels more comfortable to you. And then the other standard involves what I'm calling the element ratio of 0 to 1. So this is where we, for photosite A and photosite B, as we were doing before, we always listed them. A lot of people counted them. Here, you list them, you count them, and you take the ratio of how many A's you have over the total elements. And then, of course, you do the same thing for B. So, you've got 2 potential targets. So you come up with a FIG and an element ratio for photosite A and for photosite B. And this is very important also because a lot of people will get 1 or 2 elements where they've put quite a few things on their page. And so the ratio will be very small. And generally, and certainly in this judging system, and it makes sense, if you've got a lot of noise there, you're not really on target in the strong way we would like to be. As remote viewers, you want to be on the target and not have much extraneous information. So that's why this ratio is important. Now, okay, so let's do a real example with a real transcript. Look familiar? So I've taken a transcript and we'll now go through it. It happens to be a 4-page transcript, and I really want to go through this together. And I think the chat box, right, John, thank you. Let's use the chat box now because what I'm going to do is show you this, and ultimately, and I want to do this as a group just because I think it's valuable for us to discuss it, for you get your thoughts out there, see how other people think about this, because there are judgments in here in terms of how high you're going to rank the gestalt, for example. Now, what I've done is I've started a little table where I would like to end off with the number of matches for photosite A, the number of matches for photosite B, and then the total number of elements or precepts. And I'll do this page by page, and then some comment about the fig. You don't really, obviously the calculation on the whole transcript can't be done until each, I could do those page by page, and that will probably be interesting, but you can't really make a final determination of the fig until you look at all the pages. Okay, so let's start. Here's the first page. Unfortunately, Ramel is not here as far as I can tell. Did he show up? No.
And he writes like a doctor as well.
Exactly. And it turns out he normally shows up at these things, but he's in San Diego. He lives in Vegas, but he's in San Diego doing some business. So, okay. So everybody does things a little differently. I personally take an overview picture and look at the sketches first, especially with handwriting like this. But if I look at these pictures and you look at these pictures, does anything kind of strike you at the level of, say, Gestalt?
Oh, yeah, it looks like he's going after a structure, man-made objects.
Right.
You have view angles and things like that that don't appear in nature necessarily.
And what about this here?
Yeah, that definitely looks like a structure. It looks like
not only a structure. Look at the rectangles.
Yeah, that's what I call structure.
Right. And look at the flat. In other words, I would say right here in my column, I'm going to say, looks like I'm going to put just an A, just to say it looks to me like he's got a piece of the fig already. He's got a very nice Gestalt match of this picture. If you were to make a sketch quickly, you would probably draw something here and a flat area here. And so I was impressed with that. Okay, now do you agree, disagree? I would say that's getting at the level of a Gestalt. And again, I haven't looked at everything yet, but I would say that's that looks like a piece of a Gestalt. Would I give it a 1 based on that? Probably not by itself, but I would certainly give it something. Now what I wanted to do was try something here, which I have a pen I can use here. Okay, so here's a pen. So I'm actually going to write A right in the middle here. Can you see this pen? Are you seeing me write this red?
Marty, yeah, it's a little thin, but we can see it.
Okay.
Marty, that's photo site B.
Oh, thank you. That's why it's so good. I'm so glad you're here. Let me erase that, and I can do that. Oh, I got to be careful. It looks like I have to erase them all. Okay, so that's a B. And I'm also going to write here fig. Okay. Okay. Now, we both noticed man-made, so let me put a B there as part of going through all the elements. But now let's go through and see if we can figure out what he said here. Inwardly seeking inside. Okay, so that looks like personal kind of thing. Okay, and what I'm going to do is, well, can you guys make that out? Moving forward again and almost encircling.
Yeah, that's standard CRV where you're describing the motion of your ideogram.
Okay. Right, so that's, I guess, what's called the emotion associated with the ideogram. That's not the AB approach exactly, because he didn't describe it. Well,
It's
here,
similar to the AB, it looks like, but maybe it's slightly modified.
right. Well, like this almost encircling.
Yeah, at the top, that top lip where it comes back around.
Right. Okay. Okay. So let's assume he's not describing the target here. Okay. So here he's got standing, stable. I can't make that one out.
Is it thick?
Thick.
Marty?
Very good. Thank you. Thick.
Marty?
Uh-huh. Solid.
Now this is where I'm running into a problem because that sketch is the highway to me. And I end up with that every time. The top sketch will be one photo site and the bottom sketch will be the other.
Well,
And so I've actually got both on my transcript, but I weight the one the heaviest that seems to have the most the most stuff with it. And I've been wrong a bunch of times lately.
okay.
But
Well,
I actually have both of them. Now that looks to me like a highway, but
Well-
yet he's turned it into a building. So what is it?
well, okay. And based on what you said, it looks like a highway because of this portion here, and it's got a line down the middle. So I definitely would think that an A, whether it's a big A or a little a, just because of everything else that's attached here, my feeling is a little a. But
Marty, could
you,
there be roads in that city? You know, I'm seeing like something in the front of the city
well,
too.
yeah, you mean right here. Yep, that's a good point. In fact, again, if you look at it that way, this again is Gestalt-like. On the other hand, you might say, well, look at the line down there. You might want to give it a little a here, in my opinion. But I understand your point here. There's also a road. I don't see a car on it or anything, but there've got to be roads here. I mean, look, these guys have to be able to get in and out to go here. So that's clearly going to be a road right there. And then the fact that he has standing, stable, thick. Um, uh, Now, there's also standing stuff here. Again, we don't want to be, just because I happen to go down here, remember, we really have to be independent. So I would say this is standing, wouldn't you? So I would give that an A and a B. Stable, well, it's all stable. So let's give it an A and a B. And you see here, you don't want to bypass them because it's a fraction of what you put on your page. And so thick, this I definitely would call thick in my opinion. I don't know. Is this thick? This is more like flat than thick. Do you agree?
I don't think thick applies really to anything, technically.
You mean it could or couldn't?
I don't think, I wouldn't score it A or B for thick. I would just leave it.
Okay. Let's just do that again. These are examples. This is judgment. It turns out I might very well have called this thick, but I'm going to make it a 0. Again, we're doing this as an example.
So those buildings are real close together, and thick could be synonymous with like densely populated or something like that. But that comes down to like the viewer knowing his own vocabulary.
Okay.
But
So,
asphalt is thick too.
yep. Okay. So even in this very short period of time, I hope you've gotten one of the major points here. At least now, element by element, you have to make your judgments, and you make them. I'm making them. I'm putting them on here as the example, and we may differ. But when you're doing yours, there's still judgment involved. But at least the judgment now is on each of the individual elements, and I think that's quite important. Okay, now I would like to ask a judgment about whether this sketches tend to be more Gestalt-like. And they tend to always come from the consciousness, and I always like to look at sketches in detail. This one, I I don't see how this sketch can be a gestalt for A. But I do see with a slight rotation how it's very similar to this. Do you agree or disagree?
If you're going to point, you're going to have to slow your mouse down because I can't see which one you're talking about. It's kind of a small
icon. The first sketch, yeah. I'm talking about this first sketch.
Yeah, the arch is there.
And there's even, okay, and even the arch, where do you, you see an arch here, huh?
Yeah, well, he says the bottom one's arch, and it looks very similar to that that's coming up from the top of the road or whatever.
Yep. Right, so it really does look like the same thing from a different perspective. And so I think, again, making this a BF, and I'm just going to say F here, makes sense. If you question that, you can make it a little BF if you wanted to, or not at all. That's a judgment, but I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that this way. Okay, now he's got this arch here, which you point out. Do you see an arch? I don't see any arch up here. Do you see?
I think it's on the hill. Look at that building that's kind of gray. And it's got cylinders. They look kind of like old smokestacks or something, but off to the side, it looks like there's archway.
Yeah.
There's arch-like stuff in photosite B for sure, but
here.
So like down in the pink building, the bottom right, there's little archways right in the front.
Oh yeah, right here. Oh yeah.
And then at the bottom left, there's a little arch-like window over there in that yellowish building.
Yeah.
Very bottom left.
Yep. And here too.
And
okay.
Yeah, there's plenty.
Right. So there really are. So, gee, that even right. Okay. So he said arching, so we can give that a B. And I don't really see any arching here at all. I mean, as close as you could get would be something like that, but you know. Okay. Now passing through. I want to go through all of these elements. Oh wait. Okay. This is. I like sketches. This is a separate sketch. What do you think about this sketch? This, to me, looked...
He labeled that as a cigarette, like smoke, billowing.
White, that's true. White, billowing, I smell cigarette smoke. But if you forget the words, it looks a lot like these. Multiple, separate, skinny. You might give it nothing because this was the sense he had when he did it, and I might give it a little A. And so, but I couldn't give it a big A. Okay, passing through, meeting of something. I don't know what either of those mean. Passing through. Well, the car's passing through, even though there's no car.
Yeah. And also,
I give that an A.
Yeah.
Once I said it that way, it's hard to not give it an A.
But it looks like he's making it with the arch. See how he's got the arrows going back and forth through? I don't know.
Yeah, that does look related.
Yeah.
Marty, it's a meeting of great things. I use a magnifying glass. Sometimes it helps me.
Oh, a meeting of great things. Okay.
So I write bad like he did.
Not what it looks like to me. It's like it says some things or some.
Meeting of some things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Could be either. But I mean, that's so general depending on how you interpret it. And he put it in quotes too. And what does this say? Does that say friend?
I think it's hand.
A hand. Oh, meeting of some things, a hand.
He declared it AOL there, so.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think this one, I'm going to give a 0. It's like it could be for everything. I'm going to just give it a 0. Again, we're doing examples here. White, A and B, or there's white in almost everything. I almost tend to ignore it, but in fact, what I'm going to do is give a little A. This would be my style, and a little B, just because it's just not real valuable. Now this says billowing. I smell cigarette smoke. Okay, that was there. Okay, so I did white separate. Now that raises an interesting question and a judgment. Do we want to consider this whole thing as one element or not? And I put an A here, and I put an A and B here, and this is confusing. In fact, now that I've done it, you can see it's going to be confusing when I count up. But that's what I did. In fact, if I look at this and he put commas here as one thing, I would actually have to cross this off. If I look at this as one thing, I would give this a 0.
Yeah, it does get confusing because when you come back through to judge, you really have to go one way or another. So
Exactly.
you have to make your own rule, I think. It has to be like a rule for everybody where if it's sort of confusing or it could be one or the other, maybe you don't count it at all. It kind of goes out
give it
of
a
the
0. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, that's how I do it.
Say that again.
That's how I do it. I just like she just explained. If it applies to both, then I don't count it. Or it nullifies. Basically.
In other words, if there's a red car in here, and I could see, or here, yellow boat, and he said, or what would that be, canoe, or here's some. Okay, if they said yellow canoe, you would give that one B. But what if they said black canoe? You give it a 0, and you wouldn't give no credit for black. I'm trying to clarify this for everybody.
No, if I saw a black vehicle, canoe or a car,
right,
in both, then I would say, okay, you can't tell. There's no way to verify it.
So what would you give as the score?
Yeah, I wouldn't count it. I would just put like a dash or,
You have to give it a 0 then. That's what I mean by a 0. It was a precept, it's an element, so you would count it in the elements. But in this approach, you would then, at least in your case, give it a 0. It's the old thing which comes up, and Lynn talks about it, and I don't remember what he decided on it. If it's red car, but it's actually a blue car, how much credit do you give it?
Half. It's half right.
Okay.
But this
and that's what you would do. Here, the only thing that's right is there's some white in here.
Right.
But there's white everywhere, so that's why I'm giving it a 0.
Right.
It's kind of a personal one, though.
Yeah.
Marty, I don't go big by colors because I get my colors wrong a lot. But I know it's a vivid color, but I'll call it green when it's red because I have a little bit of color blindness too. But the cigarette smell, I don't know. I'm older maybe than some of the people in this group, but my mother smoked in the car all the time. Now, I never did smoke because it made me car sick when she smoked. But, I mean, lots of people smoke in the car.
Well, but remember, you're at this photo site when the photo was taken. I don't think you would smell smoke there.
Well, it depends on the viewer, or right. Somebody might be looking inside one of these buildings where somebody's smoking. So wherever you have humans, you have a possibility of a cigarette smoke.
Okay, and again, you're making my point. This all becomes very personal, and you're going to have to make your judgments, and then you're going to learn by going back what to do. But there are judgments involved. And when are you pushing it too far when it's not obvious? Some people are really super strict. I'm less strict. How strict?
I'm super strict. I'm very strict. If it's an item that's not verifiable, then
that's right.
It's either a miss or you just can't count it because you can't verify it. So
right.
you go around in circles trying to say what
You
if.
can't, exactly. And that's why in the definition of photosite, it said easily verifiable. I mean, it's one of those things that should be obvious. That's the way I do it as well. Now, the car was a different example, in my opinion. That's where um, um, it's almost like a metaphor. It's almost like your mind, when it sees a road like this, almost would have to connect it up with a car or traffic or something like that, I think. And so if that came up, I would give it credit associated with this. But somebody else might not. John, you might not. Okay. So let's go through the rest of these now. And I want to take the time because I think we're all getting better insights into where we have to make these judgments. Okay, so what does this say? Can't tell. That's another one of the problems with it.
Smoky, I think it says. Smoky, maybe?
Looks like it might be smoky with an EY though, but spelling doesn't count. Not sure. I sense feeling vacant. Vacant. Well, this is sort of vacant.
I think that word is sensibly. No, that's
S-E-N.
S-E-N.
Yeah. Okay. Let's just, if we can't get it. Okay. What about vacant? Do you feel like this feels vacant?
No, but A does.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I can't see my thing. That's right. I think A definitely feels vacant, and so I think that does deserve an A.
And again, you don't see any people out there. I mean,
right.
I'm sure there's people there, but you don't
right.
see any in the photo.
Well, but vacant doesn't only. This has a feeling of being empty. This has a feeling of being crowded in my mind. The word feeling.
Otherwise, the buildings would be falling apart.
Yeah, but yeah.
Down there.
But the word vacant doesn't only even mean people. It's just, is there stuff around? And this, I mean, it just, this to me, A feels vacant, B does, and then he used the word feeling. So anyway, I would give it an A. Again, we're doing this more for example. Okay, now what about green? Now I see some green here.
That's both.
I see green here, right? So that's an A and a B. And arch with this sketch. Yeah, we see arches here. Well, we decided arches. I don't know. Okay. Well, I guess we give it a B, huh? We'll give that a B. And I think we did the first one. Now, there's also an issue of what you do with AOLs. Do you mark them? Don't you mark them? Some people, in fact, I think it was actually Joe who said he tends to ignore all AOLs unless they're exactly right on.
Oh, there's a wall.
Yeah, there are plenty of walls. So, in fact,
if I get an AOL, for me to count it, it would have to be really close.
Okay, otherwise you just ignore it.
But I will sometimes decode them and see if there's something in there, and sometimes there is. So
okay, yeah. For those of you who don't know what he meant by decode, he'll then go into it and kind of do a sub RV session and ask about, that word or phrase that was an AOL. I mean, the sub gave it to him, so it might have meaning there. Very good. Okay, so now some transcripts are just one page. So let's just now go through with one page and count the A's. So there's 1, 2, 2.5, 3.5, 4, 5, 6. I see 6 A's. So let me put 6 in my table here. And then how many B's? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 B's. And if all I had was this, I would give this at least a 0.5 as a, in fact, let me do that here. That's sort of fun. Since I've got this by pages, I'll go to say A, and next to it put a 0.5, just to remind us. So I would have given that a 0.5. And then I'm going to show you the formula later, and we can figure out what this one page would have done. But
can you do that again? You're doing a ratio between A and B percepts, and you have,
right.
What was it?
So it's the Gestalt is 50%. Actually, I'm looking at that now, and I would probably, especially since the arches now fit, I'd probably give this at least a 0.75. Don't you think? In terms of capturing the Gestalt of this, the only thing that's missing is water.
So we're pointing towards photosite B, right?
For sure.
Okay, because you said A 0.5. Did you?
Oh, again, thank you.
Okay.
God, you guys are so good, and I need you. To do this real time, at least, well, you see the way I am. I am the way I am, and I make mistakes like that. So thank you. And in fact, I'm going to change that. I really think if that was all I had, I'd probably give that a 0.75. And now that I'm opening this up to other things, and that's only because I see no sign of water.
Marty, what did you give A again for a score?
Well, I saw 6 elements for A, 9 elements for B. So the ratio for B would be 9/15. The ratio for A, oh no, there were some zeros here. Now let's count the total. Now we have to count the total. Okay, so the total of the A's and B's plus the zeros. So there was 1, 2, 3 zeros. So the total would be 15 plus 3, which is 18. Okay, and so later we'll be doing the ratios for A, and then the ratio for B, and then the Gestalt for A is 0. I see no Gestalt. Maybe this little road with the line through it might get it up to a 0.1, but not really with the whole sketch. Okay, let's go to the second page. Okay, but that's it. If all we had was this one page, we could then go in and do the arithmetic, but why don't we go through them all? Okay, so let me go to the next page here. Or won't it let me? No, that's interesting. It's not letting me go to the next page. I wonder if I have to erase everything first. Let's see. I'm going to erase everything. What's happening here? About pointer? Huh, okay, I had to go back to the pointer. Okay, here's his page 2. So now let me go back and get the pen. And again, he's got this solid and something in the front. So again,
you see the word thick again.
You see the word thick again. So he's emphasizing that. Atmosphere. Well, atmosphere is one of those words that goes for everything, but let me give it an A and a B. I would give that a smaller A and a B, but there's an A and a B. Solid. I guess they're both the word solid, but that goes along with the sketch. If I take that all to be 1, I would just give this again a B. And I would have to give it a, well, I'd give it a lower level fig. You know, he didn't have the rectangles and stuff like that, but.
It looks like that darn smokestack.
Oh, over here. Good for you.
That's a lighthouse, right? Or
I'm not sure.
No.
It's on the top of the hill on a beach. So, or a castle maybe.
Yeah, I think it's more like a castle.
That is what it looks like.
Yeah,
It does
no,
look like that.
right.
Looks that one thing and then it's flat around it. That's exactly what it looks like.
Yeah, that's
And then
exactly what
there's
it's
something on the point over above the little, there's like a reddish orange building. Is that a tree or?
over. Oh, here?
Yeah, there's a reddish orange building, and then right on the cliff there's an object. At first I thought it was another pillar, but I guess it could be a tree.
Yeah, it's a palm tree.
Yeah.
A big one.
Okay.
He has the word warrior there, which would go with the castle.
Boy,
Yeah.
and that's
And
interesting.
then it says something, a castle in Europe on the far side there.
Under the
my
under the
God.
drawing it says
Look at
people
this.
in olden times. You see that?
Look at this. I see the castle. What else do you see?
People in olden times. So under the drawing on the left it says people in olden times, and then a
Yep,
concrete
people in olden
concrete
times.
living something
Yeah,
Go.
architectural.
nice, very nice B for this. All of these words here as one element, which is the way it came into him. An agglomeration of living spaces. Oh my gosh. What do you think
He
about
put
that?
architectural beauty and water.
Oh, he's got water here now. Where's that?
Yeah, right here. And right under the B where it says architectural and then it says beauty and water, period.
I believe it says wonder.
Oh, I think that's architectural.
Okay.
It says architectural for sure, and then architectural beauty and wonder.
Oh,
Oh, I thought it said water. It looks like
well,
water.
let me look at it. Oh, I see. Architectural beauty and
Wonder.
it's wonder.
It's wonder.
Oh, okay.
It's wonder.
Movement
Okay.
is precise and calculated. That's what that.
Right.
Or measurement. Measurement. I think that measurement is
So
precise and calculated.
I would say that's actually an A. You know, that sentence, if you take these as sentences, I would give that as an A.
Unless he's trying to do describe the because he's still on S2.5. It looks like he might be describing architectural.
Could be.
But hard sell.
But this is architectural too. I'm going to give it an A, but you know, if you take the whole thing as one unit, certainly the beginning part, or people in olden times. I mean, this is certainly modern. Who knows how far back this goes? Not super olden, but interesting. Well, no, the castle is definitely olden. Nice. Okay, so let me see if I missed anything here. The green, they both have green, but boy, I sure like where the green is with respect to this castle.
Right.
What's
above it? What's that word there? Vat or?
Vast.
Vast.
Yeah. So what do we think?
Could be the ocean is vast. I mean.
Yeah.
Good point. Yeah.
Yeah. Would you call anything here vast? An A?
Yeah, it's A, B, I would say.
Yeah, I don't want to overlook A's. You know, it's clear we're all being drawn. And please, all of us, including me, just really don't get drawn into one too soon. You know, that's just the biggest mistake a lot of people make.
There's more green in A than there is B, so green is A, B.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And thick.
What is that? Thick?
He did those again. Yeah, thick
foundational, high elevation.
I don't know about either of those.
That could go with that castle that he has right next to it on the right side.
Maybe.
Generally, when you have data that's clumped together, they're somewhat related because you're getting a flow of perception all at once.
Right, right. Yeah. In fact, it's almost like what I want to do, and I'm going to do that, is consider all of this to be one perception. You know what I mean? And I'm giving it a B. Never really done that before. Judging has so many different possibilities in it, judging and analysis. But I agree with your analysis that this really came in as one unit. And so it's like one element. And the green may or may not be part of it. So I'm going to count that as an AB over there, knowing there's some vagueness, some fuzziness in it. Okay, so did we miss anything? What does this mean? Some crossing?
Crisscrossing.
Crisscrossing. If there was an intersection here, I could give it a big A. I don't know what to do with this. Let's give it a 0. Okay, I mean, we could find plenty of things, I think, if we looked real hard, but at this point, let's do it. And this says vetting of something?
I think, Marty,
Yeah?
I think that
netting.
yellow sign has a crossing on it. I'll bet you it's a moose crossing or something. At least here, that's what it would be. That yellow sign has an X
Over
on
here?
it. Yes, it does. Using my magnifying glass. I'm using my big monitor, and then I use a magnifying glass. That yellow sign has an X on it, so it's a crossing for animals, probably.
God, I sometimes have trouble. Now, this is me personally going for these super small things because, you know, the remote viewer isn't doing it. But I see what you're saying. We can give that a little A. Okay, here, let me do it this way. I'll put the A here and consider the 0.
I got a real quick perception of that sign. To me, it looked like the wavy lines of a curvy road, like a warning. Road's curving.
Yeah. Okay, let's just leave it like this. You know, again, we're doing mixed judging here, and let's do our counting. Because you can see, you know, we have 4 of these to do. Each page looks like it's taking maybe 5-10 minutes. But if you have 4 pages, it's going to take more time, and that's appropriate. Okay, so let's count the A's. 1, 2, 3.
I guess we're lucky he didn't do a full CRV session then, huh?
And a half. Right. Right. Well, and Joe was clear. This judging is for ARV. So wait, what? 1, 2, 3 and a half. Okay, so that's 3.5. And then the B's, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, it's hard to already not be convinced of where we're going to go, isn't it? I'm afraid. And then I had 1, 0. So that's 9.5. So that's 10 total. Okay. Notice I didn't do a feedback session this time because I know this was going to take a while. Even this page down work, even page down doesn't work. Interesting. Let's see if I go to pointer. No, I have to erase all this. And then go to pointer, and then I can go down, I suspect. Okay, so here's his page 3. So let's see how we go through this now. Again, I like to do the pictures, so that actually could be the road, though swaying back and forth, moving back and forth. I suppose that could be the ocean. I feel bright, energetic. What do you do with that? Most rapid, increased response, moving back and forth, metallic, silver, titanium, whitish. Okay. You know, and you have to, there ain't anybody else but, you know, you as the judge, us right now as a judge, so we've got to put something down. Whale. Oh, now that, he's got water here now. Alive.
Yep.
Oh, I like the water.
He's saying whale out to sea or something like that, I think.
Right. But in terms of the Gestalt of B, that brings it up, in my opinion, to a 1. Because that was the only thing that was missing. Oh, and look down here. He's got fluidity. You know, as a judge, I sort of feel like I ought to go through the rest of the steps, but you
What
know,
about those little things
we
above
have.
the, above the whale? Those two little things kind of look like boats. And on this, on B down below, there are boats parked against. It looks like a harbor or
Oh
pier
yeah,
there.
there are boats here, and you think he said boats?
He didn't, but he said they're moving back and forth. You know
Right.
how they would do if they were parked in the slips.
Yep. Yep. Okay, so let's put this moving back and forth. Um, definitely want to give that. I guess we'll give it a big B, maybe a little B.
Yeah,
Yeah, let's give it a little B. But I could see where someone else would
Yeah.
give it a big B, and you're not going to argue with them. And this
I
is
think he's describing the flags that are down there by the boats. Like, I can't think of anything else moving. Maybe the wind is causing those flags to move, or the trees.
right. Let's see. Yeah, we'll give it a little B. And yeah, and again, he's got this idea of things moving through. He did that before. You know, look at this little beach over here I'm seeing if we really get into the details. Oh, and there are even two of them there. Huh. Okay, but basically, this might be more the road than anything else. It could be all this flat stuff too, but let me give him an A for the road. Um, he did another ideogram. Let's assume that's what this is. I feel highly energetic. Oh, I bet that did come from this ideogram, which looks highly energetic. Okay. Swaying back and forth. Okay, we did that here also. Well, we'll give it another lower B. When you repeat things and they come in as a separate element, I personally feel it is okay to give it another one. It reinforces it because that's what he did. He reinforces it in motion. So we've sort of made this the equivalent of a big B. Whitish, metallic, silver. Well, do you think these are metallic here? And they're whitish, silverish. Yeah, I would say. Okay, let's give that an
yeah,
A.
the signs are metallic.
Yep, we'll give that an A. Absolutely. Pricing. Not sure what that is.
Precious?
Ah, precious.
Is it precious?
Yep, I think you're right. IOUS. Does he have other S's here? I started making viewers whose handwriting's like this when they wanted me to judge for them, which I just don't have time to do anymore. They had to give me a written version.
Yeah, if you want to do turn in a session for Lori, you have to type it up too.
Right, right. So I don't know what to do with. I don't know what we gave that an A. Maybe you can interpret that as being part of this here with the lines and everything. So let's consider that to be one unit. What does this say here?
Saying
Buried
underneath, only a
buried.
part shown.
Oh wow! Having seen the I would not have. Having seen the castle and all that. Only a
That could be
part
with sign again.
He did that with the whale, but I'm sorry, what'd you say, John?
Oh, he could be referring to the sign also, because you have concrete holding that sign up, and then it's sticking out of the ground.
Yeah, could be A or the castle.
In terms of buried underneath, yeah. All
Well, I
that.
don't see the castle as being buried. That's a structure that's been
underneath,
built up.
right. Yeah, right. Only a part showing. I mean, that's sort of, see, this is all kind of with the whale. But even the castle looks a little bit like that. So I don't know what to do with this.
Did he make that whale an ALO? Is that an ALO where it says a whale something out of the sea? Does he have
A
ALO?
whale bringing or coming out of the sea. He gave that at the AOL.
Okay.
Right, so it wasn't AOL. Grayish blue. What does this say? Something of movement. Yeah, it looks like he got this as a sense of movement with it. But I like the whale, which brings in the water.
Yes.
And down here with fluidity, it's a done deal.
Yeah, and he has blue down there, so he's seeing the blue water.
Yeah. Let's give that there. Motion, I don't know. Somebody gave that a little A. I again, but it's not moving now. So here's moving again. Okay, what? We need to do something for all of this. It's not an A. Well, I guess all of this, I'm going to say, even with the alive, I'm going to give it a B overall. That's what I would do. Because I would then interpret this as being the water. So you see, as analytic as we're trying to make it, there are problems. And then here, I would put a fig here. I gave it the B already, but I would call this again as a fig. And by itself, it would only be a partial fig. But there we go. Okay, so let's just count these up. This is number 3. I got 1A, 2 A's, 2 A's, and 1/2 B, 1.5, 2.5. Okay, 2.5.
Marty?
Did I get any zeros? I probably should have a 0. We didn't do it. I'm going to add a 0.
Marty, looking at the shapes on this thing again on B.
Yeah.
If you just kind of squint your eyes and look at the bottom water, that water shape at the bottom, where the bones are and stuff, that might be what he turned into a whale. That kind of shape, he might have turned that into the whale. And I tend to do that. I'll take shapes and I'll make them into something living when they're not.
But I wouldn't give him credit. That might have been what he done, but you don't want to grade it that way.
AOL of the whale and all that, but I think he might have got it from that shape down at the bottom.
Right. But that in terms of judging, I would recommend you don't go that far and give yourself credit for that. Okay, I gave this, in terms of the fig, a B of 0.5 because water is obviously a major part of the Gestalt here. And that's actually pretty good because that gets me up to my 1 by adding them together. So I'm glad he got that. Okay, so now, wait, I have to trash this and go back to pointer. And here's 4.
Marty, can you hear me? This is Arthur.
Yeah, hi Art. Yes, I can hear you.
I just got my microphone on. I was sitting here. There's this whale thing. Remember that now this is a noun. I think we're taking this thing as a whale to a limit here. It's past the limit. I think it's a figure, and rather than an actual whale itself. I think whale and water. We're connecting that a little bit too much.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think he declared that as an AOL though, didn't he already?
He declared it.
Okay, but also in the lower left-hand corner, there is it looks like a church with a big that thing.
Right.
Now that could be, going back to your first page, that could be something of interest for you, and also that could be your whale too.
Or the arch.
Okay, now right there, the first one where it has the lines going up like the street, like it says solid.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That could be your steeple right there, and then it goes off to the all to the right, and it comes to this peak right at the top, which is your well, it looks like a castle or something like this, a tower.
Yeah.
To the far right. Now, what he's doing, I think, is taking the entire oversight, boom, and it hit him, because this is his first picture.
Yep. Yeah. No, I think cap, and he said arch and everything, and this would definitely be arch-like.
Well, and I think what he's doing is taking the whole thing. It just hit him, boom, right there,
Mm-hmm.
and he just saw the whole picture right at the thing, and it kind of curves out over there.
Yeah.
I think. Now,
Okay.
sometimes I do that rather than you just focus in on one little thing.
Right. Well, yeah.
The bottom picture there, that just shows the whole row of properties. It's hard to it's hard to picture this thing while you're getting a quick glimpse of something, just like real fast, boom.
Right.
And you're going into a lot of overload. Now this I don't think this has it's all B, and I don't see any A in that lower picture there.
Right. And this is the Gestalt. And we
That's
gave that a lot of credit, and that he got it. And I think what you're talking about here is I think he got the Gestalt of this. For some reason, he came in here, and it looks like that could be it. But, we don't know. He may not even know. This is what came up to his consciousness.
Yeah, we don't know. Yeah, but this is the thing.
It's sort of cool as judges to. You get insights into consciousness, and he self-judges. If he were to self-judge this way, he could learn and would be learning about his own consciousness. Okay, let's go into 4, okay, because we actually want to do a remote viewing session as well. Thank you, Arthur, for that. Let me get the pen back. And here's 4, moving fluttering, and he AOL'd that as a butterfly. I don't know. Actually, if you look at this and you want to say now he got to the point he's on page 4 where he's getting into other things to describe, this looks an awful lot like that, doesn't it?
Well, there's those 2 flags down there too, right next to each other.
Down here?
You got the bar right where your pen is, but to the left. Close to the boats, there's flagpoles.
Oh, yeah, over here. Yep, they're fluttering. Okay, so we can leave. Okay, let's give that a B.
Overall, Marty, I think it looks like a A, because you can, if you just look at like a butterfly on either side, and the butterfly in the center, the body.
Yep, I see that. Okay, let's give it an AB. I see that.
Yep, I see that as well.
Yep.
Okay, but
And
I don't you see the whole thing. I just see a little part at one time. As a matter of fact, when I see stuff, what I see is going from the upper right. That's my first contact, then the center, then the lower left. The lower left is more the overall.
That's interesting. So you would get the Gestalts at the bottom of the page or on your second or third page or whatever. And that's good to know. But, here, this is a piece of it, and an AB seems appropriate. Now, do we...
Well, wait a minute. Marty, your Gestalts, what you mean by that is it like this, the overall view, rather than the scribbling, like the ideogram.
Right. Were you here when I talked about the fig, the first impression? Yeah. So
Right.
but it's a first impression Gestalt-like thing, and I don't know. I don't. Maybe for this one you could say it was a fig, but it's just not strong enough in my opinion. But it's good enough for elements. So, though, if you wanted to argue this was a Gestalt and you wanted to judge it that way, I don't think I could disagree. Looking at it now, I mean, what could be more? As a sketch, you draw something in the middle and something on two sides. That looks pretty Gestalt-like.
So yeah, right.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to give that an A fig. I agree. That looks pretty good as an A fig. Okay. Now, how about spinning?
Look at that. If you look at all three of those words, he's got blackened.
Spinning, moving, blackening.
And blackened. That would be driving down that road.
Maybe.
So I don't see if that's a church or not. It could be a lighthouse. Like who? And then
that's a very curving road.
Yeah, but we're really pushing it. And he's associating it with a hurricane. That was his AOL. I'm going to put all of this as one unit. Well, the AOL doesn't matter. And I'm going to give it a 0. And I'm not sure that's right, but that's what I'm going to give it, okay? Unfortunately, I'm now in the mode that I hope none of you ever get into it, which is I'm rushing. Okay, which I should not do, but I'm telling you that. Don't you ever rush. Because I want to get to the actual scoring and then the remote viewing session. Dangerous.
Yeah, to me, so just for that spinning, because he's got spinning, mirroring, and something, that would be a lighthouse to me, but I don't know.
I see it being stronger. In fact, what I thought was out in this neck of the woods, they might very well have twisters, not hurricanes, but twisters. Though out here, they might have hurricanes. But, we're just stretching it. None of that is in the picture in any obvious way. And so I'm going to give it a 0.
Well, I mean, the photos I don't know if it's a lighthouse, but they certainly have the shape of them, a couple of them.
Here, right? And you're saying in a lighthouse, there's something, but I don't see anything. The lighthouse may be over here someplace. But anyway, you would judge it differently, and that's fine. Okay, so let's see what we have.
His AOL is an elephant. And if you turn your head sideways, that road could look like an elephant's with its, an elephant's trunk stuck out. So I'm just throwing stuff out.
Pushing it a little bit. And I like the approach of easily verifiable. Okay, what does this say? Contrasting to white. I think that's what that says. And this is blackened. Well, now this looks like A.
Oh, Eva has a great point. You see it? Well, she said lighthouse, but now if you look at the back of that sign, it does look like that butterfly thing. Not just the road.
This one here?
The sign itself, and then that is kind of a mirror back of it. See the triangle sign, the warning sign?
Here you see. I'm circling it up here.
No, bottom left. Yeah, the bottom left of A there. The one that's closer, the one that's silver.
Oh, this one?
See, that's reflective on the back, and it looks like a butterfly kind of.
Oh, okay. Well, okay, but I mean, to me, once it got pointed out, you forget the AOL and you just look at the shapes, and it looks exactly like this, except for the arrows. There's no motion. This certainly is an A, blackened, and the vertical lines. I would give that an A without too much trouble.
Below that, it says, does it say smells inside?
Smells inside. Now, I don't know if that's for this one. Just woody, smells with a touch of coldness. Temp
Bottom one's interesting though, about the artificial lights and the ambience in the street. Sorry, it looks like
yeah.
ambience in the street.
Artificial light.
definitely.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. So that's a B here. And in smells, he had, interesting, because he had cigarette smoke before, but now he's actually saying inside. So that, I would give that a little B. It's almost like as he wanted to get more details, and so he's looking inside now.
Does it say fireworks over on the side there at night fireworks, or what is that above the word street? Yeah, right there.
Insect.
Trap.
It says insect, butterfly, cricket trap.
Right.
Talk about an insect inside of something.
Yeah. I don't know
but then below that, above what you just marked as the big B, it says something night fireworks.
Yeah, he's got S2.5 and a light fire with gas lamp, artificial lights.
Okay, a light fire. Okay.
All that is a very nice B.
How about the street as a big A?
With an artificial lights. Well, again, this gets down to what do you do with red car?
That's a block concept. That's all one concept right there.
Right. Yeah.
But I guess you could call the striping that's reflective artificial light, but it's not that way because it's daytime. So I don't know.
Well, there are going to be artificial lights here.
Yes.
There's no artificial lights in A because those are reflectors. That's what those are for. Right. If they had lights, they wouldn't need it.
It is a street.
They look like a light, but there's a big street on B down below, right above the boats there, above the green.
Right here.
Street.
Right here. Yeah.
And it looks like ambience there.
But I as this whole sentence, the way it came into him, I can see, in fact, I'm not even sure I would call this a street. You'd call this a highway or something, you know what I mean? But if someone wanted to give that a little A, I don't know. I would counsel against it, but I could see where they might do that. Again, it's like we said with blue car, if it really was a red car, you might give it a half. But look at all the other information in here, and street is only one of the concepts. And taking this as a unit.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Eva wants to say something, but she's afraid to talk.
Don't be afraid to talk. Go ahead, Eva.
You'll put it on chat.
Yeah, you can chat if that makes you more comfortable, but please talk. You're among friends, Eva. Total friends here.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So here's one thing that I thought about this whole discussion. That's something very important to me is the feel about when you draw something. I can have like pages and pages of drawings, and there would be one little drawing. It could even be a detail, or it could be a whole, what you call Gestalt. I'm German.
Right.
Gestalt is really funny for me.
Right.
I could do a whole, like spend an hour, and there would be some elements that stick out to me, and I can't forget them. They stick out to me, they grab me, and it could be really stupid things. And I did have a hit. As you know, I had a lot of misses. I had a lot of hits. I had a hit on a church bell, and what I did draw was repeatedly motion. I just had this weird motion, and if you look into this from how you're looking into the things like now, you wouldn't recognize it because I would go over and over and over again in a weird motion. but what it did is that my body expressed the ringing bell. And that's how I figured it out.
Okay, that's
So,
cool.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't show up. I think what you're saying is it wouldn't show up in the transcript. So this judging approach might not capture it. Is that one of the points you're trying to make here?
Yeah, I'm saying that it was actually totally in my transcript, and I showed it to my partner, and I said, this is really weird, repetitive, blah, blah, blah. And I know that's the church bell ringing. So I think there's just so many aspects in a transcript.
Mm-hmm.
We just have to look more open.
Okay, well, yes, thank you. And the fact that you got open.
Criticizing in no way I want to be criticizing. Yeah. I'm scared. I hate talking into a computer. I've never been able to get comfortable with that, and I hate this being recorded. But nonetheless,
well, you did it. You did great, and thank you for sharing that. And the way you described that with the bell and the sense you have of it all is, I think that would be just right. I think almost any of us would have done the same thing if, we had those feelings. And you're right. The feelings have a lot to do with it. And this is one of the reasons a lot of people like self-judging, because you would have had a bit of a hard time transmitting that to somebody else.
I know, and sometimes you can't even tell exactly what was going on. You just have, like I posted earlier on the chat. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you just get a really sick feeling, and yep. I did post this that I love that John Herlowski talked about that, mm-hmm. And that's basically the best I can say for now.
Okay, that's good. Thanks for sharing, Eva. We appreciate it.
Thank you for doing this webinar. I'm so happy to do this. Thank you so much. Okay, good.
And you're certainly welcome. Okay, so did we mark this? We have an A here. We have okay, so are we ready to count? I think we are.
No, Marty, what did we do about, even though the ALL was a hurricane, there's something below that says highly active. What's that word above it?
Okay, hurricane, active, dangerous. Dangerous.
Oh, okay, dangerous. Okay.
Yeah. That's why I gave it a 0. At least in my opinion, all of this together, and I think it was one unit, just he went someplace else, or maybe he went there at a different time, or who knows, but in terms of the judging, I'd have to give that a 0. Okay, so let's do number 4, and then let's do the final judging on this together. So for A, I have 1, 2, 3. So I've got 3 A's, and I thank you all for watching me here. I've got 1 B. I have 2, and I have a half. Interesting. So on this page, A's have it over the B's. So this is 2.5. And then and there was 1 0, so that's 5.5, 6.5 total. Precepts. Oh no, the halves count as full precepts. So I counted some of those wrong, right? So I have to add halves. So this one is a 7. Okay. And then I give the Gestalt. Okay, so let's see for A. That's a pretty good Gestalt, isn't it? Well, but he didn't get so much. He got the geometry, but he really didn't get anything else. I'm going to give that a 0.5. What do you think? Do you think he got all the major Gestalts there? And also I would say, yeah, if all I had was this page, and later we have to go over all the pages, at least remembering it, I think I'm just not quite sure it's worth a 1. I'm going to give it a 0.75. Okay, so let me now go here and turn this off. And let me bring this over here. So here's the table that I kept, and let's do some of the fractions and stuff like that now. So down here I can do a sum, and I can copy that there. Okay, so we got 14.5 versus 20. In terms of, okay, I just bring the total over here as well. And now we can do the fractions. Those are easy now, right? So let's make this fractions. And that then equals, you have to love Excel, that divided by that, but I gotta put these dollar signs in front. And then I can take this and put it there. Okay. So this is 48%, and that sounds about right, and that's 35%. Now, let me show you the formula in more detail. In fact, had I been cleverer, whoops. What I want to do is bring this on half the screen, and let's see what happens when I go here. Okay, so now our challenge is to get this back into the TARG system. Joe stopped it with the sum of the two divided by 2. So he ended off with a number between 0 and 1, 0 and 100%. We, I think, all know the TARG system here. The 0 to 7, 3.5 being wagerable, but this used all of these words, which actually for a transcript like this would be pretty good. I think it would get us up here, but it'll be interesting to see what this system does. Okay, so this is the page that would, where you would have to put in now the CRs in this system, and we'll be doing this with our prediction. Okay, looks like, oh no, I just went backwards. Now here's the calculation for photosite A and for photosite B. So it's the sum of the two of the fig plus the element ratio divided by 2. And that I've made this in the form of divided by 2 just to show the 50%. This is where the 50% importance comes in. But then you get a number then, which is between 0 and 1, and then I brought it over to the 7 scale just simply by multiplying by 7. Well, that turns out to be exactly the same as taking the fig number, which we haven't done yet, but we have done the element ratios and multiplying that by 3.5. Okay, so this shows that. What we have to do now is come up with the overall figs on our table, and then we're done. So in this table, for B, I clearly am over 1. but the biggest B the fig could be for B is 1. So that's a 1. And for A, he had 4 pages. He did not have much other stuff. It's a judgment. Yeah, it's a judgment call. I'm going to judge it. He just missed so much else. The vegetation, he got the green. I don't know what to do. What would you do? Let's say you had a choice between 0.5 and 0.75. What would you do?
0.5.
Anybody else? It's a hard judgment. And, it's going to change the numbers a little bit. Okay, so let me see if I can now, and I think I should be able to do this, put in the fig plus, what did I call that? Element ratio. Element ratio. Oops, I lost my fig. I can't lose my fig. Okay, fig plus element ratio. And let's do it separately for A and then for B. So you understand what I'm doing here now? So I'm really trying to do this in easy steps so that we can understand it all. So for A, the fig I gave, I should put this in 2 different columns too. I'm doing this in real time, unfortunately. So let me make that, let me say A, and this will be 0.5, and B for the fig was 1. So now what I can do is for A, I just need to add up the fig, which is here, plus the fraction, which we got for A, which is there. Okay, let me do this really in those steps. And then I'm going to do the same thing here, which is its fig, which was 1, plus the fraction here. What did I do? Did I lose my fraction? 0.48, right. Here. And notice here I get 1.4, here I get 0.85. Now, if you remember that formula, right, this formula now gets multiplied by 2. Okay, so this is, this is the sum. So now, this can go between 0 and 2. So now I take this number. I'm really doing this, hopefully when people watch this, that they'll know what to do. You multiply this by 3.5, right? Because this number goes between 0 and 2, and you get your CR. And that was under 3. And then here, you do the same thing. So it equals this times 3.5, and we get a 5.2. Okay.
So a 5 and a 3?
And then you'd have to do the rounding off, and let me show you that in a minute. Yeah, so we could round this off to 3, and we'd round this off to 5 as the final CRs. It turns out that Ramel gave this a 5.5, and it was a hit with a 5.5. So when he judged it on his own, that's what he gave it.
So what was his score for A? 3?
It might have been a 3.5. I don't know. I just don't remember that. But what's interesting, you can see you can get the point. It's like if we had made the judgment of making this a 0.75, maybe this would have jumped up. I don't know. So there's still that kind of uncertainty. But let me now, okay, so, and that seems intuitively reasonable with everything that we saw. Period. I mean, I certainly don't have any objection. It's certainly worth a 5. It might have been worth, I might have even given it a 6, but intuitively he gave it a 5.5. Now let me show you a graph I made to make it easier, and some of you might want to use this. This idea of adding the 0 and 1 elements together, which is the fig plus this element ratio, that always gives you a number between 0 and 2. You then can look on a chart like this and not have to do the multiplying by 3.5. So presumably you could then take the 1.48 right here and 1.4, 1.48, and look at that, you end off in 5. So you don't have to do the rounding off or anything like that. So I put that together there, and you can copy it. You could ask me, I'm happy to run off a copy for you. I'll send you a copy, or you can get it from the video. So that's about 50%. And we did an example in detail, which I hope helps you understand. It's still has some fuzziness in it in going through the individual judgments of the elements. Any questions, comments, anything like that that somebody would like to do? Because the next step is we're going to go ahead and do a prediction now. And judging. So you'll actually get to try this on your own.
So you're saying photo site B was the winning side?
It was the winning side, and we would have given it a 5. Notice 1.48 is here. If it had been over 1.5, it would have gone up to the 5.5. So we're very close to what Ramel gave it. And, you know, each of you saw enough that I don't know what you would have done on the TARG scale using the words, but, you know, this is certainly reasonable. And the fact that the other one was a pass is really good, in my opinion, because I think some people would have given that a 3.5. And this approach, we got it under the pass. So, okay. Let's do a prediction. We're up to that. Why don't you stretch a little bit? You know, if we were in a class now, I'd give you a 20-minute one, but we won't take 20 minutes. So, you know, stretch, get yourself ready. The prediction we're going to do is this is the table of all previous predictions up to here, but what we're going to do now, and let's just stay focused on getting to it. And in fact, what it is doesn't matter, but it's always fun to know what it is we're doing. So this is, will the SPY, which is like the Standard & Poor 500, but it's the stock-like element, which you can look up anywhere. And will its daily price close under 250 exactly a month from now? And that's motivated by, I went into Yahoo this morning, and the price structure, each of these are a day. The top tick is the high, the bottom of it is the low. Red says it went down from the opening to the close. Green says it went up from the opening to the close. And these are the price ranges. So these are days going all the way back to before July. A month ago was like September 4th, which is in here. So you can see the kind of movement you can get in a month. We're now in a long-term uptrend with oscillations. And the question I asked basically is, will that uptrend continue, or will we be below 250 a month from now? So that seemed like a reasonable kind of question to ask. From our perspective, what you think about this has nothing to do with it, because you don't really know the yes/no associated with the photo sites. In fact, nobody knows that except the computer. So it is truly a blind question in terms of describe and sketch the photo site, you'll see. This is just a quick reminder to get us back into our remote viewing mode from our more analytical mode. And you're going to be doing the cue, describe and sketch your feedback target.
Marty?
Yep.
Marty, November 4th is on a Saturday.
Is that true? Because I thought I looked at that. Let me well, you.
That is true, yes.
Oh, it's right there. I thought it was Friday. Well, we'll use Friday. That's obvious. It'll be the same price on the 4th as it will on the 3rd.
Right.
But thank you for that. In fact, it will stay in the on the sheet, but let me change it here just to make it clear. This is the master, and I made that a 3rd. Thank you, Arthur.
Okay.
I remember looking at it, and I saw it was over on the right, and somehow, as I said, I did this morning and a little bit too quickly. Okay, so consciousness is fundamental, and that's what you're going down into. And we sort of have talked about this enough. Okay, describe and sketch or sketch your feedback target. That is our cue. That's what you're doing. We know that's our coordinate. We have a pretty good sense by now. I didn't see any brand new names, so I'm assuming that all of you know this, but very quickly, this is the level of the words. If any newbie sees this, the level of the kind of words you get. They're the kind of words that maybe a 5-year-old would use. You don't name things. Someone is singing. Wait, who's singing? Wait. Okay. Now, again, just to get you so you begin to set your intention right now for describing and sketching your feedback target that you're going to see in a month from now, and I'll give you the coordinates shortly, but that's going to be your intention. And you're going to be paying attention to your own subconscious, and your expectation is going to be really feeling good about what you're about to do. And get into a positive mood. Think of something happy right now. Gotta help, also why not? So think of something really, pleasant. Get yourself in a good mood. And let's get our coordinate. And then we'll do it. So the coordinate is always obtained via an email like the one you see here. And the event, so I was the tasker, and as I put in the event here with the November 4, which is now the same as the November 3rd. We're doing this, the event is on the 3rd, not the 4th, but it's the same since it ends on the 3rd. The market is closed on the 4th, and our transcripts are due today. And then all a person has to do is click here and put their own personal email address in. I am acting as the surrogate, and I did this one under Marty Rosenblatt at gmail.com. So I'm acting as a surrogate there, and I will now press so webinar, this is all the groups we have. We're going to do one coordinate. I press here, and there you go. So your coordinate is, and write this down on the top of your sheet of paper, is 305125. So that's enough for you experienced people. You're welcome to start your sessions, turn off your sound, and go. 305125.
305125.
Exactly.
305125.
And I'm glad you're saying it out loud, Arthur. I'm going to turn off your mic. There we go. And so when you start, saying it out loud is great, and then you say it out loud again at feedback time, and that can act as a kind of beacon in addition to the subconscious stuff that's now taking this in as a beacon as well. 305125. And your whole transcript acts as a beacon. Okay. So for the newbies and the people who are still with me, you write the coordinate on the top of your sheet of paper. Saying it out loud is always a good practice. That's recommended by virtually all of the formats because it's very physical. This whole, notice you're moving, the whole process is very physical using your nervous system. And so all of that helps get you to the correct feedback target. Put your name, the date, and the time on the right. And all of this is preliminaries. A line here below this is your real transcript. And what you'll do, this format has become relatively standard, but not, people do their own variations on it, is a ideogram, a pictogram, something to start things off as you say the coordinate out loud again down here. And then often what comes up are these gestalts that we've now talked about. The first impressions that you get, you can put them right here in the middle or underneath here, wherever you like. We went through a good example of somebody who mixes his sketches with his words, which is rather typical. And a lot of people like to go through the possibilities, and they even will use a sheet like this, which I'm happy to send you, where they specifically ask for textures, colors, smells, tastes, dimensions, geometry, sounds, dynamics. You can get temperatures, anything that you can get normally using your senses, you can get in a remote viewing session. And
Marty,
then
I'm sorry, did you already give a coordinate? Or did
yeah, you missed that. In fact, I thought you'd be one of those who would be starting. Yeah, I'll give it to you now. It's okay, no problem. Okay. 305125.
Okay, thanks. Oh, also, I uploaded the template to the forum. People can just go there and grab it if they want.
This form?
Yeah, well, the one that I created is very similar.
Yeah,
but
okay, sure.
It's uploaded already.
Okay, good. Put it in the chat box, and then they copy it. Okay. In fact, all I do is give them Okay, so there you are. We're now in a position where you have the rough format of your transcript, and people will modify it to suit them or what feels comfortable. AOLs, which you saw in the example that we did, are analytical overlays. That's when the intellectual mind gets involved, and you kind of know it came from the intellectual mind rather than the subconscious mind. And that's a rather important skill to pick up, because obviously you want the RV transcript to come from your inner self, your deep subconscious, which is what gets connected to the matrix or the universe of collective consciousness, which in fact has all the information about the future. Cool down is what we're now, take a few deep breaths, and it's the time when you empty your mind of your day-to-day stuff, and you want your psychic self to be the one to take over and provide the information to kind of your conscious mind, acting strictly as a witness and enough of being there so it can put stuff down on a sheet of paper. And you're paying attention to your sub the whole time through your conscious mind, and all your senses can provide information. So your cue, describe and sketch your 305-125 feedback target. The cool down is really important. We're about to go into a 10-minute quiet period where you do your session. A lot of people might take 5 minutes just getting into the right space so they feel they're connected through their inner self with this information. So that's roughly what I recommend. But again, the viewer is in charge. You do what feels comfortable for you. You set your intention, expectation, and witness what your sub provides. This is a link which I'm about to start, and then I'll put that link in the chat box so you can use it if you wish, or any other technique. People lots of times like to have their own music. This one has a 5-minute quiet notice telling you when the 5 minutes is up, and then there's a 1-minute notice which I'll also do verbally here. So let's start. You have about 1 minute to go. Okay. Come on back to your normal self. Do a little stretching. Remote viewing sessions are great, aren't they? You guys back with me? Yeah? Okay, I can't tell for sure. Somebody put something in the chat box or tell me you're hearing me okay. Oh, are you with me? Okay, good. Hi, Millie. Yeah, it's just so strange. You could have all been asleep for all I know. You know, that happens sometimes. Okay, now, before you do that, Patricia, one of the things which we're going to do next is do the judging, and then with the judge, with the marking, just like I did the A and B, it's really very instructive to see those and talk about them with the judging done on the page. So that's the next step. And you can't do the judging until you see the two pictures, photosite A and photosite B. So that's what we'll do in this webinar next. And,
Marty?
uh-huh.
Are we going to do the judging like we did before, or are we doing it regular?
Nope, you're going to do it now using this about 50%.
Okay.
So this is going to be your chance to do it, and then the questions and everything that comes up will, you know, be appropriate to have me answer them now. And yes, so that's the intent here, for all of you to use this new approach we just went through. So analysis judging comes down to the yes, no, a comparison between the two possible photosite targets. The judging system is the TARG scale, where 3.5 is when we first get wagerable. When you get up to 3.5, we say it's time to wager. Maybe if you choose to wager, you just begin to wager a few bucks. And then it gets progressively better using Targ's words. One of the critical ones has always been 5, where he adds the words unambiguous, unique, matchable elements. So this is really a good match, and we saw that in Ramel's transcript. He clearly had a number of those, and we got up to 5.5 with him, and so that's extremely good. And then 6 and 7s are going to be even better, and you're going to have relatively little incorrect information. And a 7, you essentially have to have no incorrect information. Your gestalts have to be at 1 and your matches have to be perfect. So that's pretty rare. And with his words, you also had to have overlay AOLs, but we in fact don't need that in this system. But I suspect they're really going to be very close. These words in that analytical system really match each other, I believe, very, very closely. Because as you go up here, you get intermixed of correct and incorrect information. The amount of correct information keeps going up as you get to a higher confidence ranking. I haven't done this joke for a while from the beginning, but it's worth paying attention to. Our skeptic would take the point of view, I alone know the contents of this envelope. And there's our remote viewer. And he says it's a charcoal drawing of a woodchuck eating a small orange. And the skeptic says, nice try, you little fraud, but that's a long way from an ink drawing of a beaver eating a tangerine. The point being made here is that the subconscious does use analogies, metaphors, resemblances. It's sort of like similarities. And as we've seen as we went through these examples, judgment is involved at that level on whether it's there or not. But I really do believe we should be pretty strict. It needs to be there in a way where you can make the connection pretty strongly. And again, this is why judging is around. It's not absolutely clear. Okay, so remember this page where you got the coordinate. Now, normally in the protocol, the We protocol approach, you would get your transcript onto your machine. Most people are using smartphones these days, but scanners are still around. But one way or another, you get it to your machine, and then you upload it from your machine. By clicking the Browse button, you get to all the files. What I've done, and I'm representing all of you, is I've just put in a dummy transcript just so we could go to the next step. And the next step is, now that we're done, the next step is to get into the intellectual mode and look at the two photo site choices and do your judging. So there they are. There's photo site A and photo site B, 4 coordinate 305, 125. And I will put in the group predictions. You saw the 0 to 7. So now that's your job, is to go ahead, and I'll make these as big as I can, and go ahead on your transcript and mark it up just analogously to how I did. If you have any questions, ask them. We're in an intellectual mode now. We can talk and do whatever makes sense, but mostly just get into your own transcript, mark it with the A's and the B's and the figs if and when appropriate, and then do the arithmetic. Eva, did you use this about 50% approach? Because I'm about to put that up just so everybody knows the arithmetic, but you had it down well enough that you were able to go ahead with it. You can go in the chat box and answer if you like. Because I would like you to try that at least, and just so I can get feedback to see how it feels. And if it's the same as your normal intuition. Why don't you give it a try? And here, let me put because other people may start being almost ready for this. Let me let me see how I can do this. I think what I'll do is copy this. Put it up here. Now I know what I'll do. Okay, so I put it on the screen, the equation, just to remind you. Fig goes from 0 to 1. The element ratio, that was the A to B ratio, over the total goes from 0 to 1. So you get a number between 0 and 2 and multiply it by 3.5. And then in the chat box, in the chat box, I would like you, if you see where the chat box is, there's a pull down menu there, and in it it'll say either organizer or my name. And then when you get to the point where you have the CRs, put them in the chat box because I'm keeping a table of all that. And then you can send via email as an attachment, send me a copy of your transcript as it's marked with the A's and B's and the CRs. And then we'll take a look at all that.
Hey, Marty, I judged mine the old way because I missed some of the the way you were calculating it. I'll have to go over the video again, but
okay,
maybe you can talk about it or something.
In fact, maybe we'll do it. We'll do yours together that way and see if we get the same answer. That'll be interesting. Okay, so yeah, send along your transcript with your A's and B's, and we'll do that. It'll be interesting even to see what you get using this new approach. Oh, I thought you gave me 2 CRs, Eva. Are there 2 Evas here? In the chat box, someone put CR5 for A, CR5 for B. Ah, okay. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that. And no problem with not doing one this time, Eva. No problem at all. No problem. And just hang in here if you want to see what the others did or not.
Hey, Marty.
Uh-huh.
The element ratio is the number of B's and A's you have? Or what was that again?
Okay, yeah, the element ratio is you take the total number of A's divided by the total number of elements together. So, right? So there are a total number of elements on your page, forgetting if they're A's and B's. So let's say there were 10 of those. And then you got 3 A's, so 3 over 10 would be 0.3. Did that help?
Yeah.
Okay, so you just take the ratio of the A's divided by the total number of elements or precepts. Patricia, if you can't do the math, at least count up all the A's and put that number down. Count up all the B's, put that number down. You might have zeros, and then we can do the math together when we look at it. But yeah, and then also be sure to make some judgment about the figs for A and fig for B, if any, for A or B. Okay, so are you all clear on the element ratio now?
Yes, Marty, but I have a question. Does the
Uh-huh.
fig have to total 1, or can it still be a decimal?
It can be a fraction. In other
Okay.
words, if there are 2 or 3 major gestalts and he only gets 1, you might, give him a half or a third. If you see things that you think he might have found, should have found.
Mm-hmm.
But that's it.
Okay.
That's a judgment call.
So the gestalt could be 0.75.
If there are 3 out of, you could give a gestalt 0.75 if you feel he, pretty much captured the big picture stuff. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Okay, then I think, okay, very good. The fig, remember that whole thing we did with first impressions? If you take a look at the overall picture, the big picture stuff, how much of the big picture stuff did he get? Okay, when you say A definitely, was that at the level of 1? Was it 0.5, 0.75? So that would be the value for the fig for A, and then do the same thing for the fig for 1. And then use the formula that's on the screen down here. And the element ratio, you need to do a little calculating. And the total, in your case, if you just sum up the A's and the B's and the zeros, that'll be close enough. Usually you do a little more because the halves, while you might get a half for the A, you get a whole one in terms of counting it if you're formal, but it'll be pretty close the other way.
I can't remember if we also counted the drawings or the gestalts as elements.
Yes, and you do. And because you mark them, notice every drawing should have either an A or a B or a 0 on it. So at least that's how I do my counting. I look at the stuff that I marked and just count the marks. Right, the 0 counts as an element. And this is how, if you had a lot of zeros, then the element ratios for both A and B would be low. And that happens a lot of the times, if people have noise or they go to someplace else, you might not get very many element ratios that are high. And yet they put lots of stuff down on their sheet, but most of it was irrelevant. Yep, the 0 counts as an element. And Joe and also Ed May, who they worked together for many, many years, both emphasize that. You need to both look at the stuff which matched, but also how much poor stuff you got. Because if there's a lot of stuff which doesn't match, that says you weren't really on target as strongly as you might have liked to have been. You'd like to get a 7. That's rare. But this is the way we measure how much stuff is on versus how much stuff is off, noise, or you went someplace else. Okay, put that on your transcript and then do the same thing for B and put that on the transcript, CRA, good, perfect, CRA, CRB, and then you have a way of attaching that to an email to me, because then we can all look at it and talk about it. Right. Thank you, John. Okay, let me see. The other John, okay. Okay, good. I'm starting to get transcripts. Let's look at John's. Okay, so I'm going to make these smaller. So those of you who are not done can still participate. I can't get rid of that, which is interesting.
Marty, I don't know how to send it to you.
You've never attached anything to an email, or you've never scanned. You've never.
I can scan, but I can't get out of. I have to get off of this, don't I, in order to send it to you?
No, you can have you do an alt tab, open up your email program, and this will stay open. You can run these both at the same time.
Okay, I don't know how to do that. Let's see.
Okay.
You have a cell phone. You can take a picture with your cell phone and email it from there.
Okay, all right, I'll do that.
You could do that directly. That's perfect. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how I do mine. They turn out pretty good.
Yep.
Hey Marty, I sent you my stuff. Did you get it?
Yeah, probably. Let me
Really?
wait. I need to. I've got one, and I'll get them. So what I want to do now is set this up so I can see both the transcripts and the picture. Okay, so you've seen it big, and now we've got John's, and let me just to make you, yeah. So I've got John's, I've got Millie, Patricia, and Donna's. So they're coming in. That's beautiful. Okay, so let's take a look at this now, and let's see if we can make John. There's John's. Here's the picture. And I guess the way to do it is this way.
You know what they say about waterfalls, Marty?
I meant to ask Joe why he he couldn't. He's the only person I know, though. Have you heard of other people who can't do waterfalls? That's so funny.
I don't know if it's because I've heard him say that so long ago and read his books, but yeah, I'm not sure. I don't remember having a waterfall target, but it's
Anyway,
just one of those funny
let's
things.
not put out anything negative about waterfall. I've got lots of people who get waterfalls all the time. So, okay, so you gave it a 4 and a 2.5. Now, let's take a look. Do you see?
So from the target scale, obviously, right?
Right, straight is what you did it using interpretation of the words on the target scale. And I'm just trying to see if there's some reasonably way we can now do it using about 50%. So let's first look for gestalts. So your A there, would you say that's a gestalt of the A? It looks a lot like it. Ground.
I wrote my gestalt under the ideograms, B1, B2, B3, or maybe I'm scoring it wrong.
Bio, motion, man-made. Right. Well, right. The bio motion is in B. Yeah.
No, there's people in that photo on the left. That's what I was seeing. There's multiple people.
Are there?
They're at the left side behind the tree.
Okay. You saw him when it was big. Okay, very good. Okay. So, yeah. There's no motion in there. Well, maybe there's a little, but the motion. Okay, let's use those three. Also, I see the sketch. The sketch obviously looks more like A than B. So if I'm judging this, first if I were to do the fig, yes, there's a bio, yes, there's a man-made, which are certainly the big picture gestalts here. And the picture coming out is actually not too bad. Let me look at some of the other words. I mean, you can obviously get, and everybody should know that, you can get figs with nothing but words. Words in some ways are automatically one level of gestalt because they usually combine and involve other things. Grassy, earthy. Purple semi. Okay. Okay. Did you count up your A's and B's? Why don't you do that? And I'm going to give you a fig.
Interrupt.
Oh, what's that?
Oh no, it's just one little thing on my transcript. I'm so sorry that I'm interrupting. In my transcript, I put zeros because I didn't see in the picture, I didn't see the people.
Oh, okay.
So when you see my transcript, you will see that I put zeros on all that was related to people. So I will get more A's then.
Okay, and we will look at that. And we can make an adjustment, a rough adjustment.
Yeah, yeah, thanks.
Okay.
Here's what I found.
Okay, so so for a fig, I would give you a 0.75, I think, for A.
I counted 17 A's and 10 B's.
Okay, 17 A's. How many zeros? Or how many total precepts?
Crap, okay.
Just because we're going to divide by that. And it'll be interesting to see if we come close to the same. And gestalt on this one, well, you've got motion. It's got a bio.
How do we count the precepts that we can't verify? Like, there's no way to know.
0.
But, okay, so the zeros are just, it doesn't count for either, but it doesn't mean it's incorrect?
It means it just counts in the total.
Oh, I forgot to count one of the colors. Okay.
Yeah, it just counts in the total. So that's how we get the fraction. You remember Ed May talked about that a lot. You want to know how many are right, but you also want to know how many are not right. Or, yeah.
Well, like sweat smell. Like, we can't verify that because you can't go smell a person, but there are people there, you know.
Right. You're saying it might be right. Oh, you mean is there one which doesn't even count as a precept? We're not doing it that way. I don't know what Joe would say about that, but for now, let's just make it a 0. Yeah, but that's a good point. That's another subtlety.
And like temperature, it's really, unless you see fire or ice, it's really hard to judge temperature.
Correct. Yeah, maybe we need to have a dash or something like that as well. But it was it was, and if you do remember, if I want to be really literal, the tasking is to describe in Sketch what is verifiable, easily verifiable. So,
see, now that's a problem because you can't always filter like that. You kind of want to let the data flow, and then you just write everything down, and then
that's okay. So you're writing
we're
down.
trained to like eliminate once we start the summary, then we start eliminating noise,
Yeah. Well, I understand, but this task is a little different than just a task of a place. And you might be able to train yourself to do that as well. Don't think not. Yeah, okay. But that's interesting. Anyway, for now, count it as a precept that wasn't matched.
Okay, I think I have 32 perceptions.
Okay. Okay, so divide 17 by 32 and give me that fraction.
I got 18. I got 18 for A.
Okay, so do 18 by 32 and
0.56.
0.56, and I'm going to give for B, I'm going to give you a 0.5 because of the bio in the motion. And
for B?
Yeah.
No, there's no, the bio is in A, not B.
Well, there's bios. Oh, by bio you mean persons. You don't count vegetation. Okay, very good. You didn't mark motion though for.
Yeah, I only count bio as like an animal or a person.
Okay, see that's again where the self-judging comes in. Okay, that's okay. But what about the motion?
Yeah, I counted it down at the bottom middle part, motion force.
Okay, so
and it's also in the summary.
So you marked it once. Okay, but from the perspective of a fig, I'm going to give you then a 0.25 because motion is one of the gestalts in here, I would say. Okay, so now use this. You should, once you do the fraction, you have enough to do the arithmetic, which I can put back up on the page, I hope. Let's see where it is. There. Well, there it is. Okay, so use that formula. Oh, this is so good to have here for other people to see this too, because you don't remember this, and that's what you do. And then it'll be very interesting to see what the CRs are compared to what you got before.
Marty, what is your phone number that I can send this to you on my cell phone?
You need to send it to my email, not a message. Can you email it to me? And that's that Marty at p-i-a.com. Then we can all look at it.
What's the man? I'm bad at this. What were the figs again?
Yeah, I'm giving you a fig for. Well, no, I did it as a combination of looking at your sketch, which I liked. I thought that was close to this. Certainly not close to this, and you gave it an A too, but I thought it was Gestalt-like in my mind, something coming up out of the ground.
No, that's a picture of the window, the windows.
That's what you saw it as. I'm looking at it, and I'm saying you also captured the Gestalt with it.
So that's
So I gave that some credit in addition to the bio and the man-made.
And then what's the FIG score for A?
I gave it a 0.75.
0.75. So that's just an arbitrary number that you just make up, right?
Not at all.
And we're counting everything else.
Yeah, but don't say it's arbitrary. The whole thing, were you here at the beginning when we all were looking at what comes up with first impressions and all of that?
Yeah, but it's kind of the number is based on a feeling. It's not, because all the other perceptions, we're actually counting them physically. So that's hard math.
Correct.
0.75 is like soft math, right?
I would say that's right. It uses whether or not the senses that it came up with first impressions, and if you're mad, and it doesn't have to even be first impressions. I mean, like we saw the example where he got water at the end, and that counted as a major gestalt. And I'm giving credit here for the bio as a gestalt and man-made, but I also like the picture.
What's the B one then?
0.25.
0.25. Oh,
and that was based on motion. And that is, why is it 0.25 and not 0.2 and 0.1? You're right. That's soft math. That's intuition more than anything else.
So, plus the element ratio is what we calculated. So
yeah. You didn't get water. That's the thing that goes through my mind when I think of gestalts.
Oh, man.
Oh, you're doing it in here? Okay.
I know. Well, I have the calculator up next to it, and it wasn't clicked on it.
Okay. Yeah, right. It'll be interesting to have your...
Oh, well, that's close.
So, yeah, tell me what you got. In fact, maybe I'll put it up here with slashes on the table.
4.585, so 4.6.
Which is 4.5 is the choices. Okay. Versus 4.
And then
what was the other one?
What do? We do 0.1. 1.96. Oh, so 2.
Okay. Interesting, right? I mean, this technique works. And it's really cool that we're doing it in just this way because it should give you confidence. And the gestalts indeed are important. And so that's getting brought in here. So that's 2.5 versus 2. Okay, John, thank you. Let's go to the next one. But I think that was very valuable.
So I was off by 0.5 on both sides, it looks like.
Right. One you went low, the other you went high.
Interesting.
Yeah. But close, so. Okay, let me get here. Okay, so I'm just going up, and here's Millie. Don't be sorry, Millie. This is why we have webinars like this, classes like this, is so we can begin to clarify all this. And I do think you'll find it useful.
I saw what you guys were doing with John's, and I kind of recalculated in the new system, and I put it in the chat box where I thought my grade was on the new system.
Okay, good. In fact, let me put that here because I didn't even get the first one. So there it is, 2.5 and 3.5. Yeah. Okay. Okay, and here we have your transcript. And you've got the count, 8 out of 36. Good, 18 out of 36, so that gives you the fractions. Did you give yourself figs anywhere?
I did it on 50%.
I'm sorry, I just didn't.
50%, like 0.5. For if that was the first impression was river or water.
Okay, so 50% then for B, and what for A? Misty Fog. Let's see. Okay, very good. You're playing with this. You can see, I mean, the formula really is simple. and it makes you look at all the right things. Okay, I'm looking at this, and I certainly, right, and this easily looks a lot like the, yeah. Also your sketch looks, you turn this upside down, and it looks a lot like this, doesn't it? It looks a lot like the the waterfall.
And I actually put river on the AOL because a lot of things came with the river,
Yep.
like long,
Yep.
wide AOL, that stuff.
Yep. Which is watery, yeah. So giving it a 0.75 is good.
Does that say under slippery smooth to the right of the drawing? Does it say leathery and then bouncy?
Slippery, leathery, bouncy, unpredictable.
I got leathery too. I couldn't figure out where that came from either.
Yeah, that is interesting. Why did you do leathery as a B? You see the whole look here being leathery-like?
Yeah, like the rock on the moss, like maybe the moss on the rock or something.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Or the water is like you have some resistance when you put your hand in the water. I'm not really sure.
That feels leathery. Okay, well, if John did a 0, I wouldn't quarrel with that either. And that's why this is called judging. And that's why it's, it's nice to have a lot of elements, because if you do it differently by one, it doesn't matter. Yeah, you also did velvety that way. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's okay. You understand it is okay to have a 0. Right, you put question marks. That would be like a 0.
Yeah.
Though I must say this is probably cold. Most waterfalls seem to be in cold places, but not all. Okay, again, I'm looking to see if there's even a fig for the A, and it's probably 0. So maybe leathery might, yeah. Okay, so, and you did it, with this technique. So what did you use for fig for A in your calculation?
Actually, I was confused on the A part because I just put the 50% as the river was my first impression, and I multiplied it by the 36.
Okay.
So I kind of did A wrong, probably.
Yeah, well, but it's lower and non-wageable. That's good. You came close, but giving the fig a 0 wouldn't be. I think that would be reasonable. So I think you ended up doing it right. Okay, so 3.532. Yeah, so I think you did it times 3.5, 432. Yeah, you probably did it okay. This might still be a little bit high because the ratio. What was your ratio of A over B?
18 over 36 for B, and then 8 over 36 for A.
Which was what? 1/4, 0.25. No, a little bit more. Anyway, this is good. You have the idea for when you do it on your own next time, right? And if you ever have any questions, you can always contact me.
Okay.
And writing down that formula the way you did is good. Okay, so that's Millie. Thank you. Let's do Patricia. Oops. I have a word, Patricia, that says transcript, but I didn't get it. You would probably ask me the one to check. I got the email, but I didn't get the attachment. So you might experiment with that. If you can get it done now, we'll look at it. But there was just no attachment. So I'm moving on to Donna. Okay. Okay.
Marty, this is the 3rd time I've gotten these pairings of pictures since I've been with you guys.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I now have in place the routine, which says it should not happen again.
Okay, but listen, this is funny.
Oh, but just notice this isn't under your name. So it isn't testing my program is all I'm saying. Okay, go ahead.
No,
What's funny?
No, it's funny because the very first time I got it, both times that I did this session on this one, I got them right. I got hits on both.
Okay, cool.
But they were the different pictures. One time I drew the waterfall, one time it was the other one. But both times of this little, I guess you call it a, I don't know what the building is, but every time the pagoda, yeah. Every time I do it, this little pot down there always comes up in my mind as somebody with raised hands. Every time.
That's interesting.
Every time. And so when I saw that picture this third time, I'm like, oh my gosh. But the second time I actually did the waterfall, and it was a hit for me too.
Okay, that's interesting, Donna.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you don't have a third picture choice this time, so let's say which way did you go? Did you do the arithmetic?
Yes.
Okay.
I did. I sent you a upgraded one because I missed some of the elements, but I had okay, I'll give it to you right now.
I want you to say the A and B, yeah.
Yeah, 13 A's, 1.5 B's, and 20 elements.
Okay. And how about the figs?
They all were for A, and I gave them 0.75.
Okay, and then you worked out the arithmetic, and what did you get for the CRs?
The CR for, broke down. The CR for A was 3.28 something, so I gave it a 3.5, so you're actually going to have to change that.
Right.
And then the other one was less because it was 0 for the fig.
Right.
It came at 0.0 something, so I just gave B a 1.
Yeah, that's good. Perfect. And that is the whole point of Joe. He basically says, if you didn't get the Gestalts, forget it. Yeah. It's because if you don't get the Gestalt, it's hard to get above 3.5 the way this is set up. And so we're totally in tune. Okay, very good.
It only makes sense to me because a Gestalt always hits me first, and that's this guy. What I felt was there was a covering and someone with raised arms. That's how I've always described it. It's raised arms, but it's really that little pot.
That's so funny. Well, keep doing it. You understand.
Yeah,
it's funny that your subconscious communicates that way. That's good.
I know, it's so funny. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's get Evelyn up here. Okay.
I accidentally made a mistake when I put down the numbers because B wasn't 13, B was 3.
Okay.
If you can read my numbers down there under where I say Temple Waterfall.
Yeah.
I give the numbers and as they're wrong because it was not 13 for the second one, it was 3.
Okay.
And I didn't give the Gestalt anything until we got to talking here. And are there people in that first one? I can't tell if there's people or not.
Well, John saw them, so I'm sure they're there.
But they're implied, I guess.
Well,
yeah, there is off to the left.
A person,
okay.
Yep, there's a person.
I thought there was one in the doorway, and there is. Looks like there's one behind that urn.
Yeah,
so
there's definitely one. There's definitely one right there.
I would give my Gestalt an A then because that Gestalt means people, so actually there would be more A's. But I have it down for 11 A's and 3 B's. My first sketch doesn't really mean much, but the second one is the one I gave an F to, which I kind of I was seeing like a ship on the horizon, but I knew it wasn't going to be a ship, so I just sort of drew something vaguely, but it ends up being the roof line or that lower fence line of that temple perfectly. And then I kept seeing a peaked shape, and I think that was the front door, because the very last thing I did, that I gave an F to the ship one, and then I gave an F to the very last one, which was, I thought it was a bird face or something like in that doorway. I drew it round, but it was in a hollow spot, and I kept seeing it as a bird or an animal, but it's that black urn and the person behind it. So I was definitely seeing that in my last drawing. And before that, I saw the open sky. No, actually, that was the next to the last drawing. The last drawing was the one that says open sky and bumps like forest in the background, and I couldn't quite draw what it was I was seeing, but that's what I wrote the description of bumps like forested mountains in the distance, and that's definitely that.
You gave that an A.
Guy, so I gave that an F because that was a real strong sight. It lasted several seconds.
Okay.
And the one with the bird lasted several seconds. Those were the two strongest sights that I had.
Okay.
And the one with...
Let me ask you this question, though. No, I'll let you go on, but let me ask you this question. Here
okay.
You say mountains. Well, I guess there are mountains back here, too. But there's certainly mountains here. Don't you think you should do a B here as well?
You know, I wasn't seeing anything that looked like that. Or I would have, because I know that that's forest. And I looked at that and I thought that isn't anything like I was seeing. And like I say, it wasn't just a momentary thing. I was actually seeing that sight for several seconds before it faded. So it's like nothing like the waterfall. Or I would have put a small B, but I didn't feel like it fit at all.
This up and down.
I'm a waterfall person. I love waterfalls and mountains and rivers and all that. So
you would have done it then. Okay, interesting.
But I didn't actually feel like I saw the gate, but I saw the lines. Like I called it a ship, but those lines. But the main thing I saw was that arching doorway, and also that urn down in the front. I think that's the thing that I saw stuff sticking out of, and I called it broom straws at first, and I think it was that urn right there at the front right, or could have been the branches sticking off of the roof, but I think more likely it was that urn. And then I just kept putting lines because I was trying to draw what it was I saw.
Okay, let me just give you a little feedback from the sense I'm getting, whether it's right or wrong.
Okay.
First, give me your confidence rankings. As you said, I can't read.
Well,
what's a confidence ranking for
since
A?
I gave it 3 Fs, and so with all the computations, I came out with 5.8.
Okay.
For A and 0.808 for B. So I gave them a 5.5 and a 1 because that's rounding them off to the closest thing.
Yeah, or a 0 for the second. Okay,
it could be a 0. It had a little bit of things, so I didn't give it a 0.
I did that chart. It would be a 0. It was
okay. It could be a 0.
0.5. And don't take this the wrong way, but you're going to be the only one who can find out if this is true. I get the sense you might be stretching things a little bit to get matches and no zeros, or very few zeros. Period. So whether I'm tuned right or wrong, I don't know, and it doesn't matter what I think. What matters is that you just watch your hits and misses and performance and go back and see, gee, I wonder if really I misjudged that. And that's all you can do. And that's
I've had a lot of that lately, and like the last miss I had down at the bottom, I had a perfect drawing of the little fuzzy flower that it was. Well, not a perfect drawing, but it was definitely the little fuzzy flower. But everything else on the page was fish swimming in the tank and the big tall tank, and yet it was wrong. So I'm trying to be careful, and I also tried to tell myself that it's the photo site I'm going to see after November 4th.
Right. Well,
so I can get it right, because I keep getting the wrong photo site, which means I'm not focusing on the final one, you know.
You're looking at this stage then. If they're really that good, then you're focusing on this stage. Skip Atwater had the perfect response to that. Don't do that. That's all he would say. You understand the principle, and somehow you've got to get your consciousness to really go. Do you say the coordinate out loud?
I do.
And you say it out loud at feedback time too.
If I stop in the middle, I say it again, you know.
Yeah. Okay. Again, you and your sub have to work that out. There is a theory that says your sub is doing it to teach you something, because it almost is like it's doing it on purpose, you know. So you
Right.
might want to do a quiet meditation and ask and see what you get. Okay, and thank you. And
I mean, the normal me would have picked the waterfall in a hot second if I could choose between the two pictures. So,
I mean, if you something you like, well, that's good. You see, and a lot of people, when they draw the wrong one, they said, "Oh, it was because I liked that one." But you see, Joe McMoneagle in many ways is so right, because he says you're not ever going to intellectually understand it. So just say, "Hey, I got a miss," and move on. And I add to that, and he didn't really quarrel with it. Do ask yourself if there's anything you can learn from that experience. And that's about all you do. And then you go on.
My issue is I've had several misses in a row when I had really strong sessions for the wrong site. And I'm trying to figure out, what's going on. So I'm trying to change my way of how I approach it. I did today. And so hopefully I learned something.
Okay, very good. Yep. And you should know you're not alone. I mean, this is what you're going through is the issue. Otherwise, precognition would be a solved issue and it would be integrated in our society already. So there's an inner challenge here in understanding consciousness better than we do. Okay, thank you. Okay, Arthur, you got it here. Good for you.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, let me see what I don't have, and let me see. I can probably get them off here. Okay, so you gave it a 3.5 and a 4.5 bottom line.
Bottom line, right?
Is that right? Okay, so let's look at the. Okay, 3.5 and a 4.5, and you did that using this approach.
Yes, because I included the ideogram.
The ideogram and ideogram. I like that. That's of course what it is. Did you get anything for the Gestalts? Did you get a GIF numbers?
Well, the whole thing is Gestalts.
Okay, so it's hard to use the numbers that way. Okay, so you really did judge it differently.
Yes. So when I have it down at the lower right hand, I have the 1, 2, and 3, and 4.
Yeah,
so
okay.
Number 1 there pertains to the top, the top right.
Yeah.
So that's the waterfall part.
Right, and that.
So I gave that 1 point for a B.
Okay. Oh, so what you did is you did these each individually, like they were an individual page.
Right.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, that works.
It's how the information comes in. That's all I can tell you.
No,
I didn't.
Don't.
I just discovered that this is how it comes in. This is what I'm given.
And this is great. No, that's all you do is you're a witness to the information from your sub.
Exactly.
Man-made, water. Now, water is really good there. Oh, you did that afterwards, though.
Well, yeah. Well, no, this ideogram I did before. I right at the start.
Yeah, but the words water you did after.
I did that afterwards, but I just identified these things.
Yeah.
You gotta label it during your session, though. I mean. Yeah,
if you'd done it during your session, that would be a Gestalt, at least a part of a Gestalt right there.
Right.
And it would give you more confidence in going to A. But it looks Eiffel Tower-like, but I can see where that certainly upside down looks like the water in the waterfall. And jumble of angles.
Same thing.
Yeah.
I couldn't identify anything.
It would be that one. Yeah. Okay. So
number 3.1 4. Number 3 looked like it's man-made, but to me, when I that's what I saw was a man-made sort of a structure like this, like a column with.
Right.
But there, and then number 4, I did it again. Usually I do 3, but I did the 4th one, and it just came out to be the same thing, like a shoelace is like a boot. But in the photo site, it does look like looks like the rock there right in the dead center does look like something that comes down, and something that, forget about the water part, but it comes down. So that's why I saw that. I didn't see any. I didn't relate very much to the photo site A at all.
Well, here you did. The structures.
Right, it's just the structure, but it's not the. It doesn't pertain to the structure too much. I don't see too much in that.
Well, let me just tell you what I see. I see this roundish thing here, looking like this.
You wrote the word column up there too. Column, and then you have the
front there. Yeah.
Like a column. Yeah, that's not very. Columnar? Well,
if you zoom in on the photo, there's 4 columns up front.
Where? Oh, here, and here. Yeah, you're right.
Those were the main ones that I drew as well. Those were the exact structures that I had on my drawing.
Interesting.
You know, on the back left, that's a. If I look at my magnifying glass, that's a tower back there.
Here.
Nope, over.
Oh, here?
Over. That's a tower. You can see the legs coming down, and so that could be drawing number 1. Could be that tower too.
Okay, well, wait. This is a tree.
Oh, it's a tree. Okay, it is. It looks like
this.
A tower.
I don't know what this is. This, yeah, it does look like one, but.
Yeah, but either one of those could be that drawing too, because they've got that same shape.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, well, Art, you're getting feedback here. Like an Eiffel Tower, I can see where the waterfall, absolutely, but also the Eiffel Tower is a structure.
Right.
So, if you're meaning these to be strength, and I think that's what you mean.
Is it a woodchuck or a beaver?
Well, that's exactly right. So, probably give it a little bit of a score. But okay,
But it is in the section there, the first one that I labeled as number 1. That's right there. There's nothing else in the A that fits that.
Oh, okay, I see. He drew a little map down there. That's kind of cool.
Right, of where you saw these things in the picture. Absolutely.
Right. Right. That's how it comes in.
Right. Okay, which is interesting. And 3, then, unless you shifted things.
It does go now. 3 and 4, it's kind of, you back off and you look at it more, the Gestalt, that's more of this Gestalt thing where you look up and back at it.
I love the way people come up with their own ways. It's great, and that's how it should be. I mean, I'm totally supportive of that. Very interesting. Yeah. Okay. Again, the same thing I sort of said to Evelyn is you just have to watch the results and learn from how it happens, and then talk to your own sub. But okay, well, 3.5, 4.5 it is in the system. And let's see if there's anybody else here. Okay, Patricia probably left. We just didn't get her transcript, so that's it. Okay, so let me bring over, I say okay a lot. Let me bring this over. And then I'll make a group prediction. I'm very clear that there are different ways of doing that. Different group managers do it different ways. Also, what's most important is your personal prediction. So having said that, let me mark all the ones over 3.5. I've been using yellow for some reason. This is over 3.5.
You're missing John there because he's out of order.
Whoops, he's up here. Right, thank you. So I've got John up there. Right, and then there's one there and one down here. Okay, and then the 3.5s, which are wagerable, I usually put just in gray, just to make them different, but to show them up. Okay, so using that technique, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 yellows. Oops, that only counts as one versus, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4 versus 2. And if you add the grays, the difference gets even higher. Well, I think we'll go with photo site A. 5. We've got 3 better than 5. 5, 4.5, still pretty close. Okay, so group prediction. And again, what really matters is the individual one. But the group prediction will be photo site A. This is certainly pretty darn good. Oh, wait, I can't count. Eve, I wish I could have seen her. No, this is wrong. Eva's are wrong. So let me go back. She said 5 and 5 somehow, and I'd like to talk to her about that. Were what she saw for the one that we did earlier. So this is nothing. Let me get rid of that. So that changes things a little bit because now we have 1, 2, 3 versus 1. And no, it doesn't change it at all though. In fact, if anything, it makes it stronger to A, percentage wise. Okay, so we're photo site A, and then let me put the CRs. The CRs that I would do here. And I don't believe in simple averaging. But I would say, I'd give that a 5 if I ignore the 3 5s. Yeah, I'm going to give that a 5. And I'm going to give this a 3.5. Okay. And I'm going to save this. So that's it. So now we have to go back. So that's it. So that's the group, and that's what I do. If I were just an individual, I would have these 2 CRs now, and I now go back to here, where I have to put in the judging. And so photo site A, we said was a 5. Photo site B is a 3.5. And then you simply put in comments. And notice we don't know if the answer is yes or no to the question, but we do know it's what's ever associated with photo site A. And let me put some comments here. PSA had 5, 5.5, 4.5, and 2 3.5s. Photo site B B had 1 4.5 and 1 3.5. Okay, so those are the comments. The other things which I like people to put in right now is their emotions and feelings about this. Feels pretty good. This is after a rather long webinar. This is the longest one we've ever done because we introduced about 50%. Okay, so you fill that out, you put in submit, and our prediction is yes. So let me put that in the table. Remember, these were chosen randomly. Notice this page gives you all the words we just put in, gives you the CRs, and it now gives you what's called a personal prediction. In our case, it's a group prediction, but I'm acting as the representative. And here we go back over here, and this is a yes. Now that's interesting. To the extent that you believe this, is there a way to wager on it? And the answer is you could buy a put because the current price is $252, but you'll pay something for the put, so you have to really think it through in terms of how you take this to a wager. It's not, it's not clear, and that's not the purpose of these particular questions. This is really testing things. We want real questions which have answers. But the table is now filled out, and let me just give the last couple of slides here, and we'll finish this off. I show one version or another of this a lot because maybe in the sense of a gestalt, the big picture of what's going on, this is it. What we're doing is clearly precognition because we're getting information from the future. If you think of the future in linear time, that's where this information is coming from. And I hate to bring up those cases when we get misses that are really highly scored and clearly judged correctly, but those are still reinforcing the fact that precognition is going on. And so you've got the precognitive capability. Now what we're trying to do is refine it and improve it, and that's very personal. And I'd like the word telepathy because there isn't anybody else involved. At the normal way of looking things, there's you in the big sense of you, your inner self you is what's doing this. Your ego is involved, it's writing this stuff down, it does AOLs, it gets you to the table to do it. So this is clearly an integrated process for doing it at all. It's you who's doing it, but it's basically you, including a higher you, an inner you, whatever word you want to use, but it's basically you. And I know I'm certainly doing this, and it's almost like, how can you not enjoy this wonderful mystery that we're involved in here? I mean, precognition just shows that consciousness is the fundamental, and we live in a universe which is so much grander than most people view it. And the fact that information can go backwards in time is something to take in, I think, really deeply, because this also means that your future experiences, your future life, affects what's going on now, and what's going on now affected what went in the past. And so all of your future moments you ought to pay more attention to and even think about them affecting the now present moments. They're all entangled together. And so I know we've been using health because health is so important. You know, when you are feeling really healthy, when you can get yourself in a state where you feel super healthy and it's being entangled with the past as well as the future, it's being entangled with your whole life, I believe that's going to make you healthier. I believe that's not a big step from where we are with precognition now. And all of this leads to wishing you all, healthy, wealthy, and wise whole life. And I thank you for joining me here. So, questions, comments, and we can end it here. Yeah, and I thank you all. I couldn't be doing this if you weren't interested in this as well. So you all take care. Keep precogging. And I'll see if I can close this.